I have to admit, I'm pretty different from most other people. In fact, it's pretty unlikely that any of you have ever met someone like me. And I know what you're thinking. It's because I'm in love with myself. It's a condition called autoromanticism. Look it up. It's real. By now, you can all probably tell that I have pretty high self-esteem for a 19-year-old college student. This tends to surprise a lot of people, given that I was born with ectrodactyly, which to me sounds like a type of dinosaur. Ectrodactyly is a genetic mutation that caused me to be born with one finger on each hand and 2 toes on each foot. The reason behind the surprise is that a lot of people operate under the assumption that you have to have the perfect life in order to be happy. But when I was 6 years old, I took a detour away from this mentality in order to embrace my own imperfection. On my first day of elementary school, I walked out onto the playground for recess with all of the other first graders, only to soon find a group of fourth graders encircling me and teasing me about my hands. Later that day, I went home crying to my mom, who also has ectrodactyly. She responded by saying that we were going to do a role-playing game where I was going to be a fourth grader and she was going to be me. So then I launched into all of the teases and insults that I had heard earlier that day, like, "Wow, your hands are pretty freakish," and, "Are you a monster?" She then looked at me, smiled, and yelled out the phrase, "I don't care what you think about me." This was revolutionary to my 6-year-old brain. Because right then and there, my mom began to lay the foundation for my own self-acceptance and confidence, despite being physically different. And many years later, she told me to never let anyone take your power away from you. And to this day, I follow my mom's advice that I should never base my self-worth or my happiness on other people's judgments. Psychologists who specialize in self-esteem found that college students who base their self-worth on external sources, including appearance, approval from others, and even their academic performance, reported more stress, anger, relationship conflicts, and had higher levels of drug and alcohol use and symptoms of eating disorders. In other words, the happiest people find their power from within. However, I get that a lot of people may not be able to relate to a 2-fingered guy learning to embrace the imperfection of his body. But I'm going to illustrate how finding your power from within is universal. The first point I want to make has to do with primary qualities. We all have a few characteristics that we use to define ourselves and our value as people. Now, if you had asked me during my junior year of high school what my primary trait was, I would have told you it was being smart. I'm sure a lot of other college students can relate to this. But defining myself as smart caused me to put a lot of pressure on myself. I had to get straight A's, good test scores, awards, and honors, all to keep up other people's perception of me as smart, and therefore maintain my value as a human being. If you've been paying attention thus far, you can probably tell that this mentality was pretty hypocritical of me. See, by high school, I was all about loving your body unconditionally. But when it came to academics, I literally based my entire self-worth on test scores. During my senior year of high school, however, I completely changed the way I saw myself. I began to define who I was by my kindness, optimism, and ability to make people feel better about themselves. After that happened, I could get A's on tests, or I could get D's, but that wouldn't change the way I understand my value as a person, because kindness and optimism are traits that no one can take away from me. The second point I'd like to make is that finding your power from within also applies to activities. During my first year at Brown, I made a love list of all of the simple activities in my life that would be very difficult to take away from me, such as playing soccer with my friends, taking long autumn walks in the park, reading late into the night, jumping on my trampoline, sunsets on the beach, and so much more. Notice what's excluded from this list. Any mention of a job, relationship, house, car, or anything else that people consider to be part of a perfect life. There's real evidence to support this too. The Harvard Business Review found that more than 80% of adults under 30 got more satisfaction from buying experiences, like vacations or concerts, than from buying items, like gadgets or clothes. While a trip to Fiji obviously does not cost the same as a trip to a local museum or an amusement park, there's a wide range of meaningful experiences that people can buy for very little or nothing at all. But I have to qualify all of this by saying that I am not equating happiness to health. Health includes access to food and water, healthcare, racial justice, and anything else relating to a person's human rights. Those categories are separate from what I'm talking about here and require individual and communal action, not just a change in mindset. Now back to the question that some of you might be thinking. Does embracing your life's imperfection mean you have to give up absolutely all ambition? Not at all. I still have ambitions and goals for my career, but I don't base my self-worth on achieving those goals. Let's say you get rejected from your dream college. If you embrace life's imperfection and you don't give your power away to that college, you'll be sad and disappointed for sure, but you won't have an existential life crisis. You would know that your meaning in life is independent of whatever that college could have given you. Now, on a different note, I have a question for you all. Feel free to raise your hand if this applies to you. How many of you are on Tinder? Bumble? Hinge? How many of you are single but looking to be in a relationship? I would have raised my hand to all of those about a year ago. See, by the time I was 18, I'd accepted that my body and my grades were never going to be perfect. But the same could not be said for my romantic life. I entered Brown without ever having a first kiss or romantic relationship, which is actually quite normal. The Pew Research Center found that 56% of older teens have never been in a relationship. But I still felt that it was weird to hit 18 years old without any romantic experience. So I joined the dating apps and went on plenty of in-person dates during my first semester of college. Now, I never hid my hands in my profile, but I also didn't hold them out like Frankenstein, because who does that? But most guys on Tinder and Bumble didn't seem to notice, and some of them were visibly surprised and even spooked when they saw my hands in person. So despite being my usual charming and hilarious self, I never got a second date. It's not that every time it didn't work out because of my hands. I mean, dating in college is hard by itself. But I still got frustrated because I'm a catch, and I didn't understand why no one else could appreciate that. So at the end of my first semester of college, I had a talk with my mom about what it was like to date with heterodactyly, and I got a new perspective on my romantic life. That fake societal timeline for when you're supposed to be in a relationship was never going to work for me because I'm gay and have 2 fingers, and that by itself, I don't fit the mold. I had to realize that I'm a strong, secure person, grounded in my values of kindness, optimism, and fun, and I don't need a relationship to be happy any more than I need a mansion in Malibu or 5 fingers on each hand. And when some guy down the line gets to have the most awesome boyfriend ever, he'll be really lucky. In all of these cases, I stopped giving my power away to other people, and I stopped letting the outside world define my value. I'm actually really blessed to have been born with only 1 finger on each hand, because it forced me to learn something that many people with 10 fingers never do. I had no choice but to embrace my own imperfection, because I never even had the option of living a perfect life anyway. So to all of you unlucky 10-fingered people out there, I would encourage you to find your power from within and start living by the phrase, I don't care what you think about me.